Thank you for tuning in. This is Game Changer 00100. I'm your host, Game Changer. Okay, so had a very interesting conversation with on Renaissance Woman's channel featuring me, C Boogie, Nyla Says, Renaissance, Cynthia G, and Taz, and a dude named Ed, who I'm not yet familiar with, but I probably will be in the future. All right, so I was explaining to them where the original Pookie and Ray Ray debate came from, and that was, in my opinion, or as I understand it, when black women questioned the existence of decent brothers shot back once they got a voice through the internet and said, actually, we do exist. The reason why it may appear that we don't exist is because of black women's attraction to a certain type of men. Now, I'm not questioning their right or reason to have this particular type of attraction, but we must acknowledge that they do, and that a certain type of black men do exist and they are available to black women. And they were available to black women, excuse me, at the time that they created this argument. Now, Taz's response was pretty interesting because I get what they want to do. They they Taz and to a lesser extent C Boogie, but C Boogie has a completely separate agenda that we could talk about, or maybe I'll talk about it on this panel one day. But Taz's agenda is to say it's all about the pussy and therefore it's invalid because there's no valid argument that can come from a man who is suffering from sexual deprivation. Anything he says is a result of his own personal sexual deprivation and therefore should not be listened to. I get that that was his end game and he wanted to angle the conversation to that. Now, I agree with Taz in the sense that that may be what the Pookie and Ray Ray debate has been morphed into. You have a group of lesser select guys who are using the already won Pookie debate argument to their advantage and turning it into a select versus non-select guy argument. I get that part as it stands now, but this is way back then. Now, in his attempt to angle towards that, he was saying things like, he said it's all about the pussy, and in mid sentence of my argument, I was saying, no, it's about the woman's claim that there are no decent black men out there. I think that this was just a counterclaim. Well, if it's about the women, then it's about the pussy. Women and pussy are the same thing. So, what I want to do is I want to explain the concept of has a versus is a to those of you who do not understand. And I know most of my audience probably understands this, but I still have to make this point because I don't know. I don't know if it's just lost on some adults, or if he was angling so hard to make this point and therefore invalidate the argument, then I don't know. Or maybe he wants to protect his own sexual marketplace value. I don't know. But all right, the concept. A computer has a monitor does not mean that a computer is a monitor. A shirt has a collar. That does not mean that a shirt is a collar. A shoe has shoestrings. That doesn't mean that a shoe is shoestrings. A car has a steering wheel. That does not mean a car is a steering wheel. A pencil has an eraser. That does not mean that a pencil is an eraser. A door has a doorknob. That does not mean that a door is a doorknob. A house has a door. That does not mean that a house is a door. And finally, a woman has a pussy. That does not mean that a woman is a pussy. So, meaning that, damn, okay. And it's sad that I actually had to spend time explaining that to an adult audience, but, that is what it is. Meaning that even if a guy does not desire to have sex with a woman, meaning that as far as that particular guy goes, his desire, she might as well not have a vagina as it relates to him. So, even if a guy doesn't want to have sex to with a particular woman, that woman can still cause him harm, damage, and certain other things. She can still create havoc in his life. And if he chooses to defend himself against that havoc, it is not because he desires sex with her. It's because he recognizes that she is capable of causing him harm, capable of causing him damage. I'm going to bring up Brian Banks as an example. Brian Banks, is a guy. He was like a football player in high school, and there was a young lady who wanted to have sex with him. He did not want to have sex with her, and she accused him of raping her, even though there was no sexual intercourse. He wound up spending time in jail and then being registered as a sex offender, and he lost his football career. I think he might have picked it back up later on, because she confessed on tape that she lied and everything, and it was all because he did not want her pussy. So for anybody now, if he has any counter argument against her, it's not about the pussy. It's about her claim that he raped her. But it's not about his desire to fuck her. It's like if her pussy was full of AIDS, the situation would have played out exactly the same. If she had acid in her pussy that burns off dicks, the situation would play exactly the same. It's I don't understand, So yeah, and if by some bizarre freak of nature she did not have any sexual function, the situation would play exactly the same. It is not about the pussy in this case. I know that it would be nice to say, oh yeah, it's about the pussy, and they're just mad because women like Pookie and Ray Ray, you know, and these niggas are just mad or jealous, therefore they should not be listened to. It's not that simple. It's simply not. You know, the complaint at one time was valid, and now it may have morphed into that, but that does not mean the initial intent behind the complaint wasn't just. In the 90s they came out with movies like Waiting to Exhale, and then what wound up happening is this whole narrative saying that oh, the black men of the world are either gay or with white women, or or married, or what was the last one? I don't know. I don't know, but that was kind of like the gist of the movie. And men of the time, this was before my time, just rightly said, like, no, we exist, especially if we're married, like they said in the movie. I mean, then we exist. Um, I think a problem, especially, in that movie when Layla Rashad was in her heyday, in that movie, she portrayed somebody who was after the Pookie Ray Ray types. But doesn't mean that decent brothers didn't exist. It's just that, you know, in her particular case, they were overlooked. They were not. No one shined a camera on them. When the internet came out, they was like, "Look, we exist. These bitches have been lying." I think that that's a reasonable argument. That argument was before my time. I am not going to get into the select versus non-select argument. So, once again, just because someone has something, or just because something has something, it is not that thing. Like, say a person has chlamydia, that person is not chlamydia. That is just something that they have. All right, I'm not going to drive this point home too much. I have a couple other videos that I wanted to make today, and that whole argument was just no words. Peace. Okay, I'm back. I thought of another analogy, and this is a pretty interesting one. All right, so you have the organization Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Now, so for those of you who don't know, Mothers Against Drunk Driving is exactly that. They are against drunk driving because they feel that it endangers their children, and it's a rightful organization, and it does. Say if somebody were to make a counter argument saying something like, "These women are just mad because they don't have cars." Well, I'm pretty sure some of them probably don't have cars. I mean, within an organization of thousands of women, many are mothers. Many might not have a car for whatever reason. And a person were to make the claim that they're just mad because they don't have cars and they can't drive as fast or as much as most people, or they don't drive as fast or as much as most people. So, if somebody were to make that argument and you were to make a counter argument like, no, they're against the concept of drunk driving, and driving is done in a car. You can't drive without a car, right? All drivers have a car, therefore they must be jealous without. It's that type of argument. That's the type of shit that I really try to avoid. Those are the type of conversations I really try to avoid online. Okay, I'm going for real this time. Peace.